G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And traditionally, if you wanted an exotic European engine with European build quality, well, you had to buy a European car. The Japanese offerings from certainly the 1990s, while arguably more reliable, they definitely lacked the European prestige, performance and refinement. But by the turn of the new millennium, things started to change and we had cars like the Honda Accord Euro come along, which in my mind successfully took on the European offerings from the time period. Even the Mazda 6 from that era was a great car. But in my mind, the first Japanese car that could truly hold a candle to the BMW 3 Series in terms of refinement and performance was the third gen Legacy. The interior of this car is truly better than any other 90s sports sedan I've ever seen. Open up the door and it reveals pillarless windows, a trait that does make these cars fairly easy to steal, but makes getting in a thoroughly enjoyable experience. There's a gold Legacy badge on the sill, and then you sit in these fantastic bucket seats. Normally, blue leather interiors are a little bit strange, but in this, the way it extends beautifully from the seats onto the door cards and here at the bottom of the steering wheel is just so tastefully designed. And they're just little things like the quality of the leather here on the steering wheel. It feels tight and well stitched. Same with the seats. And Subaru even thought to put extra piping here on the side that you get into most often to save it from getting torn. The gauges, simple, shows all of the information that you need, but just has an exquisite appearance to it. The dashboard just looks high quality, like it's not going to fall apart or rip or crack. And it's contrasted beautifully with this silver metallic looking trim throughout. Even simple things like the cup holder, the way it pulls out, you can tell that somebody put some serious design thought into that. And it's practical with a good amount of space in the back and a decent sized boot as well. But then we come to the best feature of this car, the transmission. This car's done 150,000 Ks and this is probably the best feeling transmission I have ever used. It is a joy to row through the gears. There's not a single part about this interior that feels like it is 26 years old. The engine, in typical 90s Subaru fashion, is a 2-litre boxer 4 known as the EJ20. In this guise, it makes the gentleman's agreement figure of 206 kilowatt and 320 Newton meters of torque. Well more than any of BMW's 3 Series besides the M3 from the time period. Back in the 90s, of course, as turbos were starting to become all the rage for making big power, Subaru's design in this fed the smaller turbo into the larger turbo with countless vacuum lines to make the whole system work. As a result, you have the smaller turbo for immediate pickup down low, and then the larger turbo takes over at the higher RPM to help produce more peak power. Although it does mean that this engine is perhaps not the most reliable. If you fiddle with it in any way and upset the balance of the vacuum system, then it just simply won't run right. I was even told that there's a vacuum line that runs across the front of the car, so if it gets into an accident and the vacuum line's broken, then it won't run right. So it's a very fragile engine, but when running well, it makes a hefty amount of power. It's paired up with a 5-speed manual transmission, which, as I mentioned, feels absolutely fantastic, and drive goes through Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Driving the 3rd gen Legacy. Long gears, man, but wow, it is just persistent and relentless power. Very interesting, the transition between the small turbo and the big turbo. It kind of goes like a Golf GTI at 3,000–4,000 RPM. You get a nice little surge of torque and it's fun, but certainly not quick. It needs the bigger turbo to really make the big power, but fortunately it does. Pedal box is placed perfectly where you can gloriously heel toe it down into the lower gears, and because of how good this transmission feels, you want to use it. Engine winds right out to nearly 8,000 RPM and sounds fantastic. It's interesting, these boxer 4s, I quite like them because They have, you know, the relative, admittedly not fantastic, but, you know, relative fuel efficiency and simplicity of a 4-cylinder engine, but they don't sound like a boring little inline 4. They actually sound interesting, especially at the high RPM. They have that gritty tone to them, which I love. Gears are a little bit longer than I would like, but overall, this is a sensational car to drive. 4-wheel drive grip. Wow, it just slingshots you through these corners, and most importantly, it feels like that perfect balance that I look for in a car between something that you can happily drive every day, that's comfortable and refined and lovely to drive, but apart from the wheel rub, that will still absolutely tear up a back road like this. The negatives, so far as I can see, I'm already getting some brake fade, which could just be the particular pads that he has in it. The steering feel is very vague, and the gears are a little on the long side. Compared with, say, the WRX STI Type RA, which had ridiculously short gears, it was just bang, bang, bang between gears. This is kind of a more relentless surge of power, I suppose you could say. And you find yourself using second gear a lot more on a road like this, because you kind of have to, because third is just a little bit too long. But that said, it also has enough torque to be able to push right through the long gears. I think an S401, the very limited run 3rd gen Legacy they made right at the end of the production run, which has the improved turbocharger setup, and it has a 6-speed gearbox with shorter ratios. That would be probably one of the best driving 90s cars out there. This, I'd say, is an 8 out of 10 car. Steering feel needs to be a bit better, gear ratios need to be a little bit shorter, power delivery needs to be a little bit more linear, I feel. If you keep the revs over 5,500, then it's just fine. But when you're sitting at kind of 4.5, you're sitting in that lull, which arguably on most sort of New Zealand back roads is, like now, where you're sitting most often, especially on corner exit, where you want the power. That said, as far as 90s sports sedans goes, this is better than anything Europe has to offer. And I'd probably say it's better than most Japanese manufacturers have to offer as well. This is truly a legendary 90s Japanese car, and it's making me want one, man. Thanks very much for watching. If you'd like to see some more Legacy content that I've done in the past, then click on the links popping up right about now, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.